there is a new class in Trove. But first... Why? Wait, what the hell? Did I just 155 million damage?
Yes.
Alright, let's go over a boss. Let's see.
Hey, yo, what the?
Oh my. No. What? What? What the hell did I even witness? Was that like a one? Yeah, that was like a 114 Uber 9 boss. What the hell? That boss literally got smacked to like next week, and my stats are not even the highest. Well, the light is not the highest. The stats are pretty nasty. Holy Jesus, this class is something else. And of course I crashed.
Baba Booey.
So let's go over the new class, shall we? Hello and welcome to another JMP video. I'm your host and welcome to my first impressions on the Solarium class. Yes, this is going to be the new class as in the Sunrise update, and that it is going to be currently right now only on the private test server. So first things first that I just need to mention is obviously this is on the test server. We don't know when this is going to come out on the live server, so I'm just going to answer that question as of right now, because I know some people are just curious when this is going to come out. I have no clue. This is still very early on the test server. I would assume that this is going to be here for maybe, I will say, a month, because this is a pretty big update, and you know, they might just tweak a couple of things here and there, considering that they, even the patch note, it says that they dropped it a little bit early. So I'm going to assume that this is going to be here on the test server for quite a bit. Anyways, so I'm going to be going over this character, just giving away some of my opinions on the character, and also try to explain how does the character work out. So first things first, let me just go over my opinions. This character, as of right now, on the current state that the character is at, I do feel is a very, very interesting character. Not my favorite, I would say, but it's definitely a character that I would probably just end up using if it drops the way that it is. It might end up being my DPS, main DPS character, because I like the way that the character just feels in terms of building everything up. It's a similar way to something like the Pirate Captain, but unlike the Pirate Captain is all about just spamming as many flasks as possible so you can keep throwing ult. In the case of this character, it's more so not a lot of spamming on your flask. I mean, you can spam flasks, so you can keep spamming pillars, but aside from that you don't need to do that. You essentially just set everything up and then just go to town, and it's pretty effective, and I like about that in this class. But the thing is, some of the things that I don't like is going to be that this character really feels slow, clunky, in a similar way to something like the Chloromancer. The Chloromancer is one of those characters that no matter how much movement speed that you do stack on the character, it's not going to feel fast. And this is one of those characters that is going to be like that, but not as bad as something like the Chloromancer. It's definitely a character that it is built for DPS, it is built for bosses, and is definitely a character that I would probably say some people might enjoy using for boss killing Leviathans. So this character is really, really interesting. Really interesting, I will say that much, considering that you use all of your abilities on this character. You use them, like, you have to use all of the abilities, in fact, if you want to be effective, which is interesting. And all of the abilities work really well with each other. The only problem that I might have is the first ability, maybe it's kind of slow, but aside from that, everything just works really nicely. But anyways, that's going to be essentially some of my first thoughts and opinions on the character. Now I'm going to explain how does every single thing work out on the character. As you can tell, this is a bow type character, and it is going to be physical damage. The bonuses, from what I could tell, is going to be attack speed, so it has the same bonus attack speed as the Neon Ninja. So that's going to be definitely something that you have to keep in mind. And some of the other things that it has bonuses, I don't remember some of the other bonuses that it has. Oh yeah, it has bonus physical damage in a similar way to the Boomeranger. So it has the Boomeranger is 10% bonus physical damage, and it also has the Neon Ninja bonus attack speed. By the way, this is like the silhouette of the character. It looks pretty nice. Let's go on over some of the other things that just makes this character. Starting off with basic. The basic attack is rather interesting because it can change depending on how many damage over time on this character is applied. Because the gimmick on this character is all about adding damage over time on enemies. Pretty much every single ability that you do have on your character can actually apply a damage over time, including the little phoenix that you do see here from your passive ability. Those are going to apply a damage over time. This ability right here is going to apply a damage over time, which all then stack the pillars, damage over time, and obviously the ultimate ability. The more damage over time that you apply, as you can tell, there's a big spread on your basic attack. It's going to start off at 1 projectile and it's going to end up all the way at 7 projectile at maximum. Each projectile does 1.75 times damage multiplier, and the attacks per second in terms of the animation speed seems to be at around 1. So this is going to be one of the lower basic attacks in the entire game, but it has potential of dealing out pretty ridiculously high damage, especially if you're just really close range into an enemy. So that's essentially going to be the basic attack. When it has the highest potential, like if you have the max stack on damage over time, if you're really close to an enemy with 7 projectiles, it can dish out pretty hefty damage. But for the most part, if you're just using it as a standalone ability, if you don't have any damage over time and you're only shooting 1 projectile, then this basic attack can be quite weak. So yes, that's going to be everything. Then it's going to be this little phoenix that you do see right here. That little phoenix is going to be tied to your passive ability. Look at this wall of text, by the way. Just to summarize everything that you do see right here in the passive ability. So the passive ability is, first of all, obviously you spawn the little phoenix that you do see right there. This little phoenix can take damage and it can die. And so once it does die, it's going to go into an egg form, which is going to work in a similar way to the Burnt Offering or the Burning Ward class gem from the Draco. So it is going to turn into an egg, and then in due time it's just going to detonate and it's going to spawn the minion once again. So that's essentially going to be the whole minion. The minion is going to apply a damage over time. It's going to do damage and then apply a damage over time as well. Pretty much remember that damage over time, because the damage over time is again applies to every single ability. If you do hit with any of your abilities, it's going to apply the damage over time, and every single one stacks with one another. So that's one part of the passive. The other part of the passive is going to be, like I just mentioned, with the basic attack, that is part of the passive ability. And the other thing is going to be that the way that you do regenerate energy is through damage over time abilities. So the only way that you spend energy is with your ultimate ability, and the way that you do regenerate energy is just applying damage over time to an enemy. All of the damage over time will give you energy back. By the way, don't drink every single time that I will say damage over time, because it is going to be something that I'm going to be saying a whole lot, because that's literally the whole gimmick of the character. The whole gimmick is just applying those dots. So don't drink every single time that I just say that word or dot or whatever. I'm going to probably say dot just for short. But yes, everything on this character is dot. The phoenix, the way that you regenerate energy, the way that the basic attack just shoots more projectile, and the way that you do damage with this character essentially. Then next up is going to be the second ability. I don't remember the name of this ability. It's going to be Solar Flare. It's essentially going to be an ability similar to the Radiant Arrow from the Shadowhunter, and which is going to be an arrow that you're going to charge, and then once you do charge, it's just going to dish out bonus damage. It will do damage once you do hit an enemy, and if you do hit the enemy even with the AoE, which seems to be a pretty big AoE of around 3x3 or something like that, then you're going to apply the same dot as the passive ability from the Phoenix, and it's going to give you all of the benefits. Which, by the way, the dot is every half a second for 5 seconds. That's how long it will last, the dot. That's going to be Solar Flare. The other thing that it will do is it will just give you slow fall for the whole duration when you hold it down. And if you do hit an enemy, you're going to keep the slow fall for like 3 to 5 seconds, something like that. I don't remember how much exactly, but yeah, you're going to get a slow fall if you do hit an enemy with the Solar Flare. So yeah, that's going to be Solar Flare, the second ability. The third ability is going to be the pillars, or what is going to be called the guiding light. So the pillars are going to be this ability that you do see right here. This is, as you could expect, is going to be a field that you do apply, and it's going to do a dot for the whole duration, and it's going to apply the same dot as the Solar Flare and the passive ability, and it's going to stack with all of them, and you can have up to a maximum of 3 of them. If you actually do see in my counter on the ability, it will say 2, and it's just going to be regenerating all the way until the 3rd, and you can have up to a maximum of 3 pillars, which allows you to essentially just spam those pillars. Just keep throwing those pillars. Obviously they do stack with one another in terms of the dot and the damage that they actually do. And the cooldown seems to be 15 seconds per pillar. So you can just get 1 pillar every 15 seconds, and obviously it will just being able to reduce it. I don't have Chronomatic Emblem, but you can just reduce it with Chronomatic Emblem or cooldown reduction stuff. And yeah, that's essentially going to be the guiding light. And then lastly is going to be the ultimate ability, which is going to be the Prismatic Blast. And I will also be mentioning as well the class gem. As you can tell, the borders, that's because of the class gem, the Prismatic Link. Essentially what the class gem does is when you activate your ultimate ability, the Phoenix, as you can tell right there, it's also exploding. That's the class gem. Normally without the class gem it doesn't explode. With the class gem it will allow you to do that, so essentially just being able to maintain range so that the minion can actually just apply the AoE damage. So that's going to be essentially the class gem, in case you were wondering. So what this ability does is it's going to cost 50 energy upon casting. Once you do cast, it's going to just keep exploding, taking away, I do believe is like 15 energy or 20 energy or something like that every second for the whole duration. I don't remember how long it lasts. I need to check on the patch notes, but it will just keep exploding and just taking away your energy. And the ways that you can just deactivate is just by pressing the ability once again, waiting until the energy runs out, or if I do recall, there's going to be a timer. And the thing is with this is the only ability that costs energy. And like I just mentioned in the passive ability, the only way that you do get energy is by applying those dots. So what you're going to essentially do is just apply the dot on your Solar Flare, throw your guiding lights, and then just activate your ultimate ability. And your ultimate ability can just activate for much longer, and that's essentially going to be the way that it is. Let's see, do I have Celes Emblem to see if I can actually just work out with the Celes Emblem? I have not tested that one out. Yeah, I think it does apply. There's a new discovery, by the way, on video. That's actually pretty insane now that I think about it, because the ultimate ability is something special. Let's just say that much. What the ultimate ability does is obviously you're going to do the explosion that is going to dish out damage. Aside from just doing the explosion as well, you're also going to get some very interesting things. You're also going to get a damage increase, which is absolutely ridiculous. The damage increase that you do get with this ultimate ability is going to be upwards of 275%. So I do believe it is upwards of 140% increase. What is my actual damage bonus percentage damage? It's 135 to 275 is 140. So you're going to get 140% into your physical damage. I do believe it's 100% instantaneously, and then it's going to keep increasing your damage every single time that it explodes, because every single explosion will increase your damage. So for those who don't know, in terms of percentages, since it is actually part of the bonuses, it means that it is going to be a percentage of your base damage, not a percentage of your total damage. If it was a total of your total physical damage, then it will go into the class multiplier instead of the bonuses. Similar way to something like the Ice Age, if you actually do check. As you probably could tell, if I do activate it right here, I got no bonuses, but if I do activate my ultimate ability list, you can actually just see that the ultimate ability says class multiply 100%. It means that it's just going to multiply everything that you do see here by 2 times. If it is bonuses, that it is going to multiply by your base damage, which is just above. And I mentioned this multiple times, it is the bonus that you do get with allies or mastery and such. So yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter as much because it's still a over 100% base damage increase. So it's still a pretty ridiculously huge damage increase on this character. And the thing is that, like you saw, is super easy to maintain because the ultimate ability has no cooldown. It's as long as you do have energy, the ultimate ability is active. And that is ridiculous considering that you can just apply all of the damage over time and then just keep going like this. And yeah, the ultimate ability is just going to keep activating every single time. And it allows you to do ridiculously, disgustingly huge DPS bursts on this character, which is out of this world bonkers. By the way, all of that DPS that you just saw right there was without martial emblem. So yeah, the character can just dish out ridiculously huge DPS. And that's just because it is a character that just keeps applying dots over dots over dots, and then you activate your ultimate ability, which increases your damage by a lot more. And it just makes the character just a pretty ridiculously overpowered character, to say the least. I don't know if this is the highest DPS, but I am inclining to believe it is. I have not done all of the testing comparison. Well, I can't do all of the testing comparison, but if you do apply all of that, I do feel this character has the potential of being the highest DPS character in the game, which is incredible, to say the least. So yeah, that's essentially going to be everything in regards to this character's explanation. The last thing that I will mention before I go over what do I think of the character in dungeon grinding, because obviously in Dells you already know it is not the best in terms of floor clearing, but in terms of bosses it's ridiculous. But the thing that I will be talking about is essentially the subclass. The subclass is going to be Phoenix Fire, and what it does is it's going to just apply a damage over time. Again, the similar dot that you do apply with your actual Solarion class. It's going to apply whenever you attack with your basic attack. So it's going to have a chance, you're going to see the explosion right there, and then it's just going to apply the dot. The dot does crit, and the dot procs, like I do believe every 1/4 of a second, so 4 times per second with the explosion. And the explosion seems to have around a 10-second cooldown, which is also a really short cooldown. So you can actually just use classes like the Shadow Hunter, and it will just help you out in just applying those dots. And those dots do add up like crazy, because you can just easily just activate your something like your ult, and it glitched out, of course. I do feel the subclass is going to be really good. I don't know if it's going to be better than getting the extra flask capacity for the night, because the other thing that you do get with this subclass is going to be more light. It's not a whole lot, but you're going to get more light for the level stat on that subclass. And the damage over time, it can be quite nice. I do believe at tier 9, which by the way, yes, subclass can now reach tier 9, which is 40,000 power rank or above, for those who are wondering. Tier 9 subclass on this character, I do believe it's a 10% chance. Right now, what you're seeing right here is 5% chance. And the damage is, if I do recall correctly, on the explosion is 3.5, and the dot is going to be at 1 times damage. So you're going to be applying 4 times damage multiplier every single second for 5 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. That's pretty nuts, not gonna lie. That's really nice in terms of extra damage and just giving away some more DPS on certain classes. So if you're using something like the Shadow Hunter, which I do feel is going to be the class that is going to benefit the most considering the amount of attacks per second that you do apply, I do feel that this character is going to just shine really well with those extra attack speed. So we just keep attacking with the ult, activate the seekers, or as you can tell, and I just get the damage over time and just keep going on and on and on. It's really good. It's a really good subclass, but I don't know, I need more testing on some of the other subclass, because every single class got upwards of tier 9 subclass, and tier 9 subclass on something like even like the Bard subclass, like the Bard subclass on tier 9, holy Jesus, 20% movement speed, give me please and thank you. That sounds ridiculous. And then not to mention all of the other things like the Knight subclass is going to go upwards of tier 9, and some of the other subclass that a lot of people tend to use. So yeah, that's definitely going to be something to look forward to. But yeah, one last thing that I need to mention is going to be in regards to how does this character perform in something like dungeon grinding. For the brief testing that I did on Uber 10, because Uber 11 is ridiculous, I noticed is that this character feels quite clunky. The dodge is rather nice, especially if you jump dodge, but the problem is going to be that this character is all about dots, damage over time. Is good only for bosses, but not good for dungeon grinding, because in dungeon grinding, if you want a speed farming character, you want instant oomph attack, just attack that will just make short work of an enemy. You don't want high DPS. Maybe in over 11 you might want DPS. I don't know. I have not tested that one out because over 11 is ridiculous. But even still, like, all of those dots are going to be really good for bosses, but for dungeon grinding they are not great. What you're doing is just running into enemies and just throwing down the guiding light or the pillar on cursed skulls. You only need to throw down one of them so you can kill enemies, but it's not like the same way as the Shadow Hunter or most of the other characters, since the guiding light sometimes doesn't do damage immediately, so it's just going to keep applying damage after a short while. So it's going to be really nice, but for like Cursed Skull, but it's not going to be excellent. For bosses, you might want to just use your ultimate ability and then attack with your basic. And if you do have extra guiding lights, and you can just throw one of them. This ability, like the Solar Flare, is not going to be really good for dungeon grinding because it grants slow fall and the damage is not that high. And again, the dots are great, but that's about it. So at that point, just use your regular basic attack, which, and again, the basic attack is not going to be as great as it is on bosses because you are not going to have multiple projectiles everywhere. So that's essentially going to be the problem. It's not amazing for that, and it doesn't have any movement speed buff. Like, everything that it does have is for your damage, not for your movement. And considering that the basic attack it's good only if you're really close in close proximity to an enemy, so you can actually just one tap an enemy, but it's still like one of those ranged projectile that is really slow, so the registration can just be rather rough. But I don't know, it can be just somewhat interesting to use. I don't think it's going to be among the worst in dungeon grinding, but it's still below average for sure. And lastly is going to be in terms of like the early game, from what I could tell. This is one of those characters that is not going to necessarily be really easy to get to in the early game, but it's not necessarily going to be among the most difficult because again, it does pretty high damage and it doesn't need any particular stat to do that damage or anything really. Like, you don't need energy regen, you don't need classroom, you don't need anything. Really, all you gotta do is just cooldown reduction, but cooldown reduction is super easy to come by. So yeah, there's that. And the last thing that I need to mention is going to be, oh yeah, the crafting recipe. The character is going to be ridiculously difficult to craft. What I would recommend anyone and everyone to do is going to be the same way that any other character. Get it through the store pack. The Solarion Spark pack is going to cost 1500 credits, so it's actually really nice considering that they're putting a 1500 credit store pack for one character rather than just putting like 3500 with the Bard and 3000 with the Vanguardian. So seeing 1500 on one store pack is actually really nicely. So this one is pretty cheap in terms of like the credit pouches. It's only 6. I mean, 6 is still pretty expensive at current pricing, but it's not 3500 or 3000 because the thing is, crafting this character is no. You need 150 primal gem shards. For those who don't know how much that implies, so in order to get the primal gem shard, you are going to get it right here in the adventures crafting table. You're going to get it right here. It's going to cost 12 of each of every single spark. Each spark that you do see right here, it will cost you 35,000 dust of that actual one, or the actual gem dust. So that is just for one, and you need 35,000 for one, and you need 12 of them to get one primal gem spark. So you need 12 of each and every single one. 12 of fire, water, air, cosmic, whatever. Like, you need 12 of each, which all of them cost exactly the same, like 35,000 per spark. You can get them from 11 boxes from what I could tell, but you need 12 of each of the spark just to get one primal gem. And the thing is, you need 150 of the primal gems. No, that's just disgusting. At that point, just grind the flux and just get the 1500 credits. It's much easier, much cheaper. And aside from that, that's essentially everything on this character. This has been a half an hour long recording, so if you got to this point, just put in hashtag Solarion, the name of the character, and in the comment section down below if you made it to this point. So yeah, so I know if you actually are a crazy person to get to this point. But yeah, that's everything. That's my first impressions and then guess in-depth guide on the Solarium class, which is going to probably be subject to change in the near future. So as always, this is still technically the very first version of the character, but at least I was able to explain the mechanics on the characters in full detail, well, as best as I could, and not to mention pretty much all of the more common questions that you can just expect on this character. But anyways, that's going to be everything for me for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out as always. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I hope to see you guys next time. Look at these wings. These are essentially the Paragon wings from the Paragon Piñatas, but flame. You get them from one of the store packs from the Solarium. So yeah, that's very interesting. So again, thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Take care and keep on hunting.